So when you've got all these criteria working together in an app like, you can focus on doing the stuff you put in there and delivering on the things that we value. Have you ever noticed how most task managers eventually just turn into this growing graveyard of unfinished tasks? That's not because you're not productive or you're not focused. It's because most of them are just designed for people that love to spend time organizing their life. After trying nearly every task app, I've realized that the issue comes down to these apps failing at things that matter on a day-to-day basis. So first I want to walk you through those criteria that I use to evaluate a task manager, and then highlight one app that really nails these things in practice. So before we get to the actual app, let's talk about the criteria, the three things that these apps really need to be able to do on a day-to-day basis. The first one is frictionless capture. You need to be able to get stuff out of your head and into your system without really any resistance. You need to be able to enter things quickly. You can't have 15 clicks or taps just to get, a task or an idea out of your head. You really shouldn't have to fill out a bunch of required fields either. It should be something that's really simple and quick for you to do from basically anywhere. And this is especially true when you get busy. The busier you are and the more things you have to do, the less time you have to fiddle with an interface to get stuff out of your head. The second criteria is its performance is trustworthy on a day-to-day basis across platforms. So this especially is true on mobile. I think a lot of us are carrying around a task manager in our phone and using that a lot for, capturing things on the road and pulling out a quick task list to see what we need to do next. You have to be able to rely that when you pull that out of your pocket and you open up the app, that it's going to run, and it's going to run fast, it's going to run smooth, it's going to sync reliably, and you're not going to be like, wait a minute, I thought I already did that. Or I reorganized this, why isn't it catching up on my PC or my Mac or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that really ruins your experience on a day-to-day basis. The third criteria is the organization structure is flexible and intuitive. It's not forced into some sort of rigid workflow that somebody else designed. This is a problem with a lot of apps that are built around a very precise workflow. They've decided how you should use the app before you even get in it. And that's challenging because then you sometimes have to work around the way they think and you don't think like them. So I tend to lean toward apps that allow me to develop my own workflow and give me the tools to use in any way I want, and that give me options without forcing them on me. So whatever task manager you want to use, you really want to look for those three criteria in it. Frictionless capture, trustworthy day-to-day performance, and especially on mobile, and being able to flexibly organize it in a way that matches your life. And there is one app that does this far better than any other app I've used, and I have used, believe me, nearly all of them. I've even left this app behind multiple times and come back to it. I just keep coming back. And that app is Todoist. Yes, Todoist has really embedded these three principles: frictionless capture, steady performance on mobile, and flexible organization structure into the design from the core outwards. And you can really feel it as a user. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that. The first criteria we talked about was frictionless capture. So being able to put something into your system from anywhere without really thinking about it and making it really easy. One of the best features of Todoist for this is its quick capture universal hotkey on desktop. There is a hotkey in the desktop app that you can press from anywhere in your system to pull up a modal that lets you dump information directly into Todoist as a new task. And it works super smoothly in the background, doesn't use up a lot of resources, and you just press, by default, I believe it's Command space or Control space. Whatever you're doing, you can quickly, Control space, and you can drop a task in. And while you're doing that, there's syntax that you can put in your task to quickly organize it. You can put a project in with a hashtag. You can put labels with an @ sign. You can assign a priority with an exclamation point. You can add a deadline or a date, and it uses natural language processing to pull out things like dates right out of your notes. And these little details make capturing things into Todoist so flipping easy. There's no friction at all. And this also carries over to mobile. Now, you don't have the universal hotkey, but they have very responsive widgets, and you can pop open a new task and drop it in really easily. It's also very well integrated with Siri and other voice assistants, so you can just dump tasks in with your voice. And they've also introduced this new ramble feature with AI that basically parses your verbal diarrhea that you give Todoist. You can just ramble off like, I'm thinking about this project and I got all these other things to do with it. And you can literally give it garbage almost and just not organized at all, and it will pull out the tasks out of your dictation without you having to phrase them as a task. So very cool feature. It's not perfect, but it works really well and is only getting better with time. So those little things, all those little features together make this like the easiest app to just get things into no matter what you're doing or where you are. The second criteria we talked about was the performance, especially on mobile, and making it, trustworthy. I can't really demo this because it's something that happens over time, but I will just share from my experience that on mobile, it is one of the most responsive apps and most consistent. I never really have it crash on me. I very rarely have sync issues. Any app that uses a sync service will eventually desync, but I've literally never had one last more than like 10 minutes. And typically it's resolved by just logging out of the device that's out of sync and then logging back in, and then it's perfectly fine. That's such a subtle thing, but so important, right? I'm not thinking about, oh, is that gonna go in? Do I trust that? I don't look at things over and over again trying to make sure they're there. It's just in the background, doing its thing while I can think about other things. So really awesome performance for Todoist across the board. And the third criteria was flexible organization. There are other apps that do this really well too, but Todoist adds this on top of the first two, which not every app nails. So adding this in, you have so many options in Todoist. You can organize by several different criteria in Todoist. You have projects, you have labels, you have priorities, you have dates, you have deadlines separate from each other. You have sections in your projects, and you can nest projects under each other and create folders. And the great thing about that is none of this is required. Right? You can use any of these things, you can use none of them, and you will have a great experience with Todoist either way. It's not forcing you to use a certain workflow that the developers have decided is the workflow. It's just, here's all the tools, you decide what you're doing, and that makes it so flexible. There are all kinds of views, and it's just this amazing toolbox for you to manage your world in a very flexible way. And the great thing about that is that as I've used Todoist over the past decade, I just keep, evolving it to match what I'm doing, and it just keeps right up. There's a few tools that can do that as well as this one has. So when you've got all these criteria working together in an app like Todoist, you can focus on doing the stuff you put in there and being present for the people in your life, following through on your commitments. And that is really the goal, right? It's being a more effective person and delivering on the things that we value, not just being a productivity machine in service of some sort of like cult of productivity. So if you got value out of this video, check out Todoist in the link below, and also subscribe to the channel.